question, or during the meeting, just let us know. We can unmute you, and we will allow you to ask questions over the phone or through audio. We really, would like these webinars to be as interactive as possible. So feel free to jump in and send comments or ask questions whenever they pop into your mind. So for folks who are a little worried about the recording, just remember we will be recording and then posting it to the STEMx website. You have been warned, and hopefully Rob is now starting the recording.
Started.
All right. So for everyone, STEMx is a consortium of 21 statewide STEM education networks. What we do is we bring folks together to share best practices about supporting STEM education, primarily in K-12 settings across the country. We also do a lot of kind of harnessing the power of all these states coming together to do bigger and better things and get more attention behind what they are doing within their individual states and behind what we can do collectively. If you ever have questions about STEMx, feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can reach out to me through the STEMx website, which is just stemx.us. So with that, let's get to the important part of the conversation here. So our panelists today include Sheila Boyington, who is a senior advisor and national states chair for the Million Women's Mentor. She's also the co-founder and president of Thinking Media. Sheila is a professional engineer and holds a master's degree in civil environmental engineering from the University of California at Berkeley and a BS in chemical engineering from the University of Florida. She's actually won a bunch of awards for entrepreneurship and leadership, and we're just blessed to have someone who is a STEM professional and a STEM advocate leading the conversation today. In addition, we have Kristen Weeks, who is Director of Global Community Relations for Cisco, a key corporate partner in Million Women Mentors. She leads a global team responsible for driving employee giving and volunteering programs and granting and community relationships in communities where Cisco has an employee presence. Kristen joined Cisco in about 2007 to manage community relations at the Reese Triangle Park office in North Carolina. And during her early tenure with the team, she was a key architect of Cisco's community granting program and local engagement strategy across the company's major United States locations. And third, we have one of our partners from Minnesota. Amanda Svidarsky is Minnesota State Representative for Million Women Mentors, and she actually has a master's in management and over 14 years of experience delivering performance excellence through the alignment of people, processes, and platforms. Spending much of her career leading teams and corporations through multi-million-dollar technology and operational change initiatives. She's currently the Director of Channel Management for Prime Therapeutics, and there she's responsible for driving key market growth, communications, and strategic initiatives for the newly formed joint venture between Prime Therapeutics and Walgreens. So with that, what I'd like to do is just throw it directly over to Sheila, who will kind of talk us through the basics of what Women Mentors are and kind of how it's grown over time by leaps and bounds, really due to her own guidance, diligence, and exuberance. Sheila?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much, Michael, for having us. And, of course, a big shout-out to STEMx for all that you do to help promote STEM all across the United States. I think Mike mentioned that, I am the National States Chair of Million Mentors, but obviously, and then I also run Learning Blade, which many of you know me as well. I love to wear many hats because I am very passionate about STEM, and it's an honor to serve in all of these roles and to really a partner with the STEMx teams all across the country. So big thank you to you and to Rob and everybody, the whole team at Battelle for all that you do. So today we're really excited to present a little bit about MWM Mentors to you and make sure that each of your states understand that they can get involved with MWM Mentors in their states, with some of the states that we have activity, as well as also states where we might not have activity yet. We'd love to include you in our work. So we go to the next screen. I mentioned earlier, we have some great partners here to present with us today. I'm very pleased and excited and thankful that these two spectacular women stepped up to present with us today. As we mentioned with Amanda from Minnesota, you're going to see a phenomenal work that the Minnesota team and the state work that's going on in Minnesota. And then from Cisco, one of our really early partners, from Kirsten Week, who really helps to lead the corporate efforts for MWM Mentors through her leadership of our corporate team, and of course her work through Cisco. She'll share a little bit about what they're doing and a little bit about our strategy around our corporate work. And then at the end, we will make sure we have ways to show you how your organization can get involved with MWM Mentors if you're not already involved. If we go to the next screen, we'll just start at the beginning. And, again, this is really setting the stage for why this is really important. As we know, STEM skills are extremely valuable, and by some accounts, and it's 1% of all jobs in 2018 will require STEM skills. And quite frankly, if we look at STEM in a broader way, it's probably even more than that. In the next screen, please. And this is an economic equation. I mean, sometimes we don't always want to talk about that, but women, we earn 77 cents to $1 for most jobs. But in STEM, we earn 92 cents to $1, and really for IT or computer science jobs, it can be even as much as 96. Should be $1, but it is really an opportunity for us to convey the economic impact of this on girls and women's lives. So that is something that we'd like to set out right in the beginning to say why this is important. If we go to the next screen, we can also see that women, we're 50% of the workforce, yet we're only 24% of the STEM workforce. The really alarming fact is the fact that women that go into STEM, in those 10 years, 50% then drop out. So this isn't only about getting more girls and to consider STEM as they go through the educational process. This is also about keeping them in those fields once they're in them. We'll talk a little bit about how we're strategizing around that, and that's why we have our corporate work. Additionally, women are losing ground in computer science and degrees that are awarded. This was kind of alarming to me personally when I saw this as a woman that graduated in engineering probably a really long time ago. It had always been tracking, and we've been growing more women in STEM. But in the last 10 years, when they were tracking between 2004 and 2014, the number of computer science degrees awarded to women had gone down. Actually, the number of engineering degrees had gone down. And so there's been a lot of question around why is that happening. In the next screen, a lot of things in STEM across the country. Things like what we're doing with Learning Grade and with other great tools that are going into schools, other things like that. But clearly, that is not enough. And so the idea around mentoring being an important component, having great role models, was something that surfaced as maybe a potential way that we could have an impact in this space, because mentors can show what great STEM careers are like, that it's rewarding work, it's meaningful. Again, for girls particularly, the data shows us that girls like career paths where they're helping people. And a lot of times when we're sort of showing kids STEM in the classroom, we're not really connecting it all the way to a career, and neither are we connecting it to how that career will benefit society. So it's an important piece that we need to make sure we connect with the mentors to have them communicate that. Of course, understanding what education is required. Go to the screen, please. So it's really the impetus for how kind of MWM Mentors were born. As Michael, as you mentioned, the founder, Edie Frazier, is on the phone. And, there was a question that was posed to the group of people in STEM saying, like, what is the impact of mentoring, or do we even understand what mentoring is going on in the United States? Connector, as many of you know, is one of the largest, if not the largest, kind of voice for STEM, a really action tank focused on connecting people in STEM as well. And what they found was that we really didn't know that as a nation, understand what was the impact of mentoring on society. And so the Million Women Mentors movement was born and really designed to advance and move girls in STEM careers through mentoring. And of course, our goal was originally to reach 1 million mentoring relationships by 2020, and we'll talk about how we are really moving that train very fast, and we've already surpassed that and moving forward. So it's really exciting to see the growth that we have had in the last so many years. If we go to the next screen, please. So our goals are fairly broad because we really want a large impact. So we want to increase the percentage of high school girls that plan to pursue STEM careers. We want to pursue the percentage of young women who pursue undergraduate degrees, 4 degrees, 2-year, et cetera. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we want to increase the percentage of women stay and advance in STEM careers. So helping women to understand that they can still have an impact after they've been in those careers for a while. Go to our next screen. We basically talk about mentoring in sort of 5 pathways, even though there are many others that we certainly include now. But look at mentoring, you might think of your normal face-to-face mentoring. We're mostly familiar with that. Online mentoring is another piece. I tell everybody every day, our texting is something that our kids are very used to communicating with. I've had a mentee for 6 years. She's in college now. But I text my mentoring to her, and that's the way that these kids communicate. The other thing is paid internships or apprenticeships. Having people think more intentionally about making sure that those are offered to women within companies, and certainly workplace mentoring at companies, again, to make sure women stay and advance in their careers. And mentorship is something we don't often think of as mentoring, but it's a very important component. It's an important component because when you're going in, whether you're in school or you're in a career, you want someone who's advocating for you even when you're not in the room. So making sure that you really proactively go out and find people who will help you do that. When we're talking about mentoring for Million Women Mentors, we like to count, you're fine to go on, a minimum of 20 hours in a calendar year is what we kind of count off as an actual pledge completed for Million Women Mentors. And so we've been working since 2014, and we've had tremendous results because of fantastic organizations. Not only do we have the most amazing corporate sponsors, I can't mention them all here, but companies like Walmart and BP and Deloitte and PepsiCo and many others who have stepped up to the table to sponsor this movement from a financial commitment, but also from understanding the importance of this within their companies, but then also groups like Science Olympiad and Girl Scouts, Girls Inc., First, so many different groups across the United States that have really turned in to help us to reach these numbers. And we're at 1.826. We were at 813 today. The important part about that is that we have gone back and made sure we were tracking not only the pledges that were being made. These were people that were committing to say that they would mentor, but we had to make sure they were acting on those pledges. And to that end, we have been able to count over 810,000 completed mentoring. Our goal is to certainly go over 1 million this year, and we're very excited because we continue to track that. We have a fabulous web portal that has been created in partnership with Tata Consultancy. They have been an amazing supporter of Million Women Mentors since the inception. And the portal is actually very useful in helping us aggregate the data that many of you might already be doing. We're not trying to create extra work. We're movement. We're not a program. We want to be the aggregator and help create that very large voice. And additionally, we do have the ability to help sort of make some connections with different organizations that you might be interested in mentoring for or mentoring with. So you can see the ability if you're a STEM mentor, if you're a company, or if you're a girl-serving organization to engage with that.
Sheila, I'm curious how many organizations are actually entering their pledges or completed mentorings into this. It's an amazing amount of pledges and mentorings they've already collected.
It's definitely in the thousands. So actually worked, because as I'll speak to a little later, we have teams all across the country in 42 states that are working on this, and we work with them to connect to what's going on in their state. So literally, Michael, it's thousands of organizations who are part of this movement.
And
so
do you need to rebrand? Do you rebrand once you hit 1 million completed mentors? Do you need to go to like tens of millions?
We're working with our brand, but we've elevated our pledge now. We're probably going to try to reach, 3 to 5 million. I don't know. It just keeps going up. Fraction of what I have and what Edie Fraser has as a CEO of this group is just unsurmountable. So we'll keep going as long as we can. That's our plan. Strategy, if you go to the next screen, as we mentioned earlier, is to really help to connect our mentors with mentoring opportunities. Besides, certainly the counting is very, very important, but definitely we also want to provide those connections. Now, one thing to note is I wanted to make a couple of notes. Number one, we want mentors to be men or women, even though it's a million mentors, that just sounded good. All our mentees are girls or women, but mentors can be men. We need everybody's help to make sure that we can reach as many girls and women as possible. Additionally, we don't match individual mentors to mentees for obvious background checks and reasons. That's why we've partnered with some strategic partners who actually are able to provide that. And we do have several validated partners that can be partnered with you to help provide those opportunities, and they will then provide the background checks and the other things that are needed in order to do that. But we really do have very robust reporting capabilities to be able to help companies and others have an ability to report out what they are doing. Go to the next screen. I mentioned earlier, actually this is a little bit dated, but we're up to about 42 states now that have tremendous pledges and have tremendous teams and leaders that are working on this for their state. This is an army of volunteers all across the country. It's been just a real big blessing to have so many people who care very much about what they're doing and connecting to the different types of organizations we have. People from universities, from companies, from schools, from profit organizations all over the country, a big, great mix of people who lead the state effort. And certainly, if you see your state there, then there's an active team in your state. If you don't see your state there, then we want you. So you to help step up and help to work with us. As I said earlier, we've been really fortunate just to actually get Amanda on board as the state chair for Million Women Mentors for Minnesota. And I'm happy to turn it over because she's going to tell you a little bit about how they got started and what they're doing now in their state, so you'll get a flavor for what our states are doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheila. So before I dive into the slides, I did want to make a couple of points that I think is really going to key off of what Sheila was mentioning. So in my own high school career, my father was a wildlife biologist, and my mother was a school counselor, so I very much tripped and fell into the career path I'm currently in. And so my reference as being the lead for Minnesota as a rep for Million Women Mentors is looking back all the mentorships I wish I would have had at very pivotal points in both my high school career, my college career, my postgraduate career. I had, gosh, and I'm not even exaggerating, probably 9 declared majors in 3 years, from the scope of design, 4 different languages, fitness, and I ended up going to the counselor's office, dumping my credits, saying, what's the fastest path to a degree? And fortunately for me, I've ended up in the STEM-related field in really large program and portfolio initiatives. But I think it's so cool to identify that this is very personal for me. It's personal for me looking back on what I had, but then also as the mother of 2 daughters, 3 kids in total, but 2 daughters, I want to be be able to provide them access to opportunities and information. So just simply say no. They have this as an option to consider with all the other opportunities that are out there in terms of taking a career path down the road for them. So let's get into what we've decided to stand up in the state of Minnesota. We started last January collaboration of a lot of individuals across the Twin Cities metro area. You can see our representation is from a lot of the major corporations that are headquartered in the Minneapolis Twin Cities metro. We've got Prime Therapeutics, United Health Group, Target, and for a period of almost 9 months, we were meeting on a monthly basis and just talking about how to do something. How do we connect ourselves as representatives of these really large corporations that have the ability and influence to make a huge difference? And one of the challenges we had is we all, a little bit differently, had a lot of passion around different subset populations. So people wanted to focus on fourth graders. Some wanted to focus on high school kids. Others wanted to focus on, women in the workplace or women, very impressionable years of college. They stumbled across Million Women Mentors, number one, realizing they did not have an established chapter in Minnesota. But then, two, it allowed us, a way to compartmentalize, keep our scope broad, but narrow our focus. If that makes any sense. It allows us to, as I mentioned, bring all of these organizations together that are very passionate about supporting women and girls in STEM. But also, very importantly, we are able to quantify the impact for organizations, because that is corporate, right? They want to be able to measure the value that we're adding, either for their mentorship activities, their internal mentorship activities, or opportunities that we provide them for volunteering in a meaningful way through the Million Women Mentors portal. So that's why we decided to align the existing group that we had directly with standing up a Million Women Mentors chapter in Minnesota. So in terms of our action path, again, as I mentioned, we're very much in the formation stages within our state. You can see on the right-hand side, this is our target governance model. We're still, like I said, in the formation stages, but we have one. We have a vision, and we know that we don't just want to have a hierarchy that's very top-down. We want to be able to have almost an organizational structure that accommodates support directly for girl-serving organizations, maybe the engineering students, etc. And that's what we're able to do with the governance model that we've identified. In terms of our action path, we really have 4 key things that we're focused on. Number one, we want to connect participating corporations to nonprofit partners, educational institutions, and other corporate partners in need of STEM mentors and role models. As I mentioned before, that access component that's very personal for me is exactly what we bring to the table in Minnesota. Just by simply opening up our corporate doors and creating introductions between organizations and educational schools within our area and girl-serving organizations, we're finding, just struggling at times even to keep up with the interest. But that is really the value that we're adding and the impact that we're making within the state. So as I mentioned, the second bullet there is to make sure that we're getting to the point that we're quantifying the impact that we're making in the state of Minnesota by logging these events and tours and things that we're doing in the Women Mentors portal. We are, and this aligns with our governance model, standing up, as I mentioned, these key individuals that will be leads to help shift practices across, whether it's schools or girl-serving organizations or corporations, share information, flyers, tools, but we support each other in a way that I don't think we always do across organizations, which makes it very powerful. And third, and you'll see in some of our highlights in the next couple of slides, is we can open up our corporate doors in order for educational institutions to take tours of our facilities, whether you're talking about an agile developing space, some of the server rooms. It's really awesome. The actual picture noted at the bottom right-hand corner of this slide is a heart dissection that took place at St. Jude Medical with some local area schoolgirls that were bused there for an event, which is quite significant. Next slide, please. Okay, slide. go. So a couple of things we're just highlighting, what are we doing? Just a couple of days ago, in fact, last month, go back one more slide. Reaching out our very first newsletter for Women Mentors Minnesota. So on a monthly basis, this is, again, a highlight key events that are taking place on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, we're not only going to focus on our accomplishments, key targets or goals that we have for our organization, but we're also, you really see it here, but at the upper right-hand side, we're going to start spotlighting mentorship opportunities with serving organizations within the Twin Cities Metro that are looking for mentors. On the side, this is just an example of an awesome event that we have coming up in June, where we're utilizing Cargill, Wells Fargo, Prime Therapeutics. Several organizations have come together and allowed their employees to form a panel, and female high school and college students are going to be able to attend and ask those females, have you been successful in your career? How did you choose digital as a career path? Those types of things. So again, it's just an example of one of the things we're doing in Minnesota to provide that access to a population that may not otherwise have those opportunities. Next, please.
And so Amanda, I'm curious, about what the response of your company has been to kind of how you brought in all these other partners to the table and what that's meant for your company and for you as well. Also, if there are kind of unexpected outcomes or benefits that you're seeing as far as being part of this, either from your side or from your partner's side.
Fortunately, so I spent over a decade at Wells Fargo myself, and I was used to an organization of 200,000+ people. I moved over to Prime Therapeutics a couple of years ago. It's a company now of 3,000, so the scale was very different. The other piece of it was there's a lot of less formality in approval processes, or less red tape seems red. But I have had nothing but support from my organization, and also I would say all of the other organizations that have, just like the partners that we listed on our flyer, it is really a cause that does not differentiate whether no matter what type of organization you are. And I think it goes back to that percentage of 71% of the jobs in 2018 require STEM skills. I mean, that is just a fact, right? That a lot of organizations are very passionate about making sure that they have this workforce that's going to be incoming to really contribute to companies in the future. So I would say, yeah, nothing but support, only just being able to keep up with demand of the interest that we're finding. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Yep. Okay, great. Okay, what do we do in Minnesota? I talked a little bit about the flyer and also the newsletter, but just a few of the things that we've done. So we talked a little bit about Optum recently hosted a Minnesota School District 196 on an Optum Experience tour. Toured the agile workspaces of the technology teams and shared with the local education community innovations in the healthcare area. So that was really well received. On 4/20, there was a pretty large event in the Minnesota area called the Women's Health Leadership Trust. There was approximately 700+ women leaders and executives from across Minnesota that attended, and there was some Million Women Mentors Minnesota in attendance at that event. We've conducted informational sessions. So one of the very interesting things is, because a lot of the companies, obviously, that are at the table for us aren't go-to companies. So going back to the second part of your question, the benefit is we may never be able to 100% completely quantify the impact that we're making in just Minnesota. We hope to also benefit other states by getting the corporate level engagement that is kind of spawning up in Minnesota. So this bullet specifically is speaking to an informational conversation that I had through our leadership team individuals that had connections in Connecticut due to her job. And so we're starting to support in any way that we can, standing up not only additional engagement in Minnesota, but across the nation as well. Third, we did have Million Women Mentors Minnesota representation at the Global STEM Summit that took place recently in D.C., so that was pretty awesome that we had application at that event as well. Keep momentum in the Million Women chapters movement in Minnesota. A few of the things that are coming up. So what are the biggest important factors for us? As I mentioned, we were an existing networking group, was to ensure that we were very clear about our ask for our government support. So just this past week, we finally met with Amy Klobuchar's office, and we're currently pursuing, I think, the next steps to formally request some honorary chair submissions and support at governmental level now that we have these upcoming events that are very specific. I'm hiding here, and in our newsletter, this webinar, the event that we are participating in. We do have quarterly leadership meetings where we invite not only all of our corporate partners, but also our girls-serving organizations. And again, we're going to spotlight at this coming meeting on 5/19. It's a group called Maidens, which is a robotics team from Apple Valley High School here in Minnesota. We are going to have representation at a very large event coming up at Cargill, Building America's Workforce, a Blueprint Tomorrow. I mentioned previously the Trailblazers event that's taking place on 6/12. And then there's also another event coming up in June for where we're going to have a marketing table at a Connect event hosted by SANS Minneapolis. Are there any other questions? So I'll hand it over to Kristen Weeks.
Thank you, Amanda, and thanks to all of you for joining. It is a real pleasure to be here today. If you'll go to the next slide, please. Cisco has partnered with Million Women Mentors as a platinum sponsor because simply we share a common goal, and that is to increase the interest and confidence of girls and women to persist and succeed in STEM. That's a goal for our industry. It's certainly a goal for our company, and it's also a goal for many of the individual employees we have at Cisco. This is something that inspires them as well. We found this partnership with Million Women Mentors to be incredibly valuable for a few reasons. First of all, because of the network of other companies that this has brought together, companies that have this shared interest and that are doing really incredible work in this area, and we learn from each other, and we're also holding each other accountable. We've also, of course, can learn from states and other organizations, nonprofit organizations who are partnered with this group. And then there are great resources, and there's a snapshot here of one of those. There are a lot of great resources on the website, but this one in particular showcases just the ability to go in and make a pledge on the website. There's a lot of guides and pathways for how to do that, and we can register as a company, or individual employees can register as mentors, and then they can tap into this website to find great organizations working all across the country that have those mentoring opportunities. So again, the value is in the network, the value is in the shared learning, and the value is in the resources all brought together toward this common shared goal. Slide, please. So Cisco has made a pledge to mentor 5,000 girls and women in the United States by 2020. And one of the tools in our toolkit is a program called Girls Power Tech. And that's what I'm sharing with you on this slide. It's something that we've done for several years. And initially it was focused around Girls ICT Day, which is a United Nations-driven celebration in May every year around girls in STEM and girls in technology. And it's really become something that our employees absolutely love, that we gear up for and put tremendous resources into every year. And this is just a snapshot, actually, of Girls Power Tech last year, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about this year. But globally, this is truly a global event for us, where we're going across 100 different Cisco locations. We're reaching almost 5,500 students with about 1,600 volunteers in 61 countries. And we invite these young women to our offices. It could be a big campus like where I am in the Research Triangle Park, or in San Jose, California, where we're headquartered, or maybe a small sales office in New Jersey, for example. And we'll see a picture from Newark in just a minute. Young women are hosted by Cisco employee volunteers. They have lab tours, product demonstrations, one-on-one mentoring, speed mentoring. So there's an opportunity for them to connect with generally more than one Cisco mentor. Talk with them about their job, some of the challenges that they're facing, what their educational path, look to get into Cisco. And we also look at coding sessions as well as robotics workshops. The idea is to connect these women to what we do at Cisco and to the possibility of a really exciting career. And Sheila mentioned earlier the desire often of girls and women to take part in careers that benefit others. And we do spend time talking about how our technology and connectivity in general is good for the world. We show them, for example, our Nerve truck, which is a vehicle. It's a network emergency response vehicle that rolls into disaster areas and is able to set up internet connectivity and telephone connectivity to connect the first responders to the resources that they need in those early days of a disaster. So that's one example of a tour that we give while they're here. But just another example, we also do a global telepresence session. Telepresence is the term we use for very high definition, life-size video connection, and we have a network of those telepresence screens all across Cisco. And these are the girls were able to connect with Fatima Al-Kabi, who's the youngest innovator in the UAE, who builds award-winning robots. She's 15 years old. And Katrina Diaz, who's the first person in the world to earn all 7 CCIE certifications. And CCIE is the term for certification in our industry in networking that is incredibly difficult to earn. And here we're able to showcase this young woman as that person. So it's a ton of fun. Our employees love it. The girls love it. We hear from the girls in surveys about we have, in fact, changed their perspective on STEM. And we hear from our employees about how much they love this and, how this is an issue, again, that's important to them personally as well as to day-to-day at Cisco in the industry. You'll go to the next slide, please. There we go. I just included, so we just completed Girls Power Tech last week, at least many of our sites did. We have a couple more this week. And these are just a couple of dispatches from Girls Power Tech. So it was May the 4th, and that you see on of course, May the 4th, this is the nationwide celebration of Star Wars. We engage in and many Cisco employees enjoy. And so you see some folks with lightsabers, for example, doing some posing there. And that particular photo is out of the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. And then on the right of the slide, we some examples of speed measuring from our Newark, New Jersey event that also took place on May the 4th. So this is something, and I would encourage you, by the way, to go to Twitter and put in the hashtag GPT2017 and hashtag Girls Power Tech, and you can see a lot of what took place last week, and you'll see even more happening as we go into the end of this week.
Here's just ask how long Cisco's been creating the Girls Power Tech session. How many years did it take to get to this point?
Yeah, we've done Girls in ICT Day in some manner, probably for a decade. But my team took over this event, I think it was 3 years ago, and a lot of resources into it, and really tried to just take all the great work that was being done and multiply it. And so, for example, we have partnered to develop some official curriculum share with STEM for the speed mentoring. Some very well thought out activities that we know that have been sculpted by those who are real professionals and how to engage students at the same. By the way, I think we're focused both on middle school as well as high school students in Girls Power Tech. So it's just gotten bigger as the years have gone by, and we're now in a position where we used to have to really work to recruit people to participate. They come to us all year long. Hey, when's Girls Power Tech coming up? Let me get on your radar. I want to lead in my site wherever that may be across the globe. We also know, by the way, that in looking at our pledge and looking at the numbers, waging of that 5,500 students, about 1,600 and 2,000 of them are in the United States. So we're making some progress as we chip away at those numbers and of that commitment. Girls Power Tech, of course, is not the only program we have at Cisco. A very important element of this work is how we work with women who are already employed at Cisco in STEM fields or who are employed throughout our ecosystem of partners who are in our industry. And we're certainly engaged in efforts there also to ensure that women who are in those fields are receiving mentorship and even sponsorship. Sponsorship being really having someone work with them and support them to elevate them to that next executive level role. So plenty of effort there as well. But Girls Power Tech is just a great example. It's a ton of fun, and we love to share about the work we're doing there. To the next slide, please. Cisco has the honor of chairing the corporate committee for A Million Women Mentors this year, and this is the aggregation of many of our corporate partners who you've heard some of them mentioned already today. PepsiCo, BP, Sodexo, Tata Consultancy, Walmart are just a few. And we're plotting the course for a year ahead and really getting into the details in terms of what we want to accomplish. And probably, we have a few key goals or a few key areas where we want to focus. Cross-company collaboration. Again, what can we learn from each other, but also are there opportunities for us to connect our efforts and be stronger and better together? And I think we're learning about those and where there is energy, but I am absolutely confident there's some really great opportunities there. Of course, bringing more companies into the Million Women Mentor Network. This, again, one of the tremendous values of this organization is the network. And the more we can draw in, the more we can learn from each other, and the better we can all do in terms of meeting these very aggressive goals. And then, of course, turning pledges into mentoring relationships, where we know that we've seen the pledge number and the completed mentoring number. We want to see those numbers match, of course, right? We want to see those pledges be concrete in relationships. And so we're working to encourage companies to do that as well. And at Cisco, we're working on that also. If you'll go to the next slide, please. And speaking of being counted, right? We are encouraging all of our members to use the Million Women Mentors website to enter what they've done, what they have completed, and you see some incredibly impressive numbers here from the AA, UW, from Tata, as well as the Science Olympiad. We need to hear from all of the organizations who are engaged, as well as individuals who want to be part of this effort. Not only what have you pledged, but what have you completed? And that's a really big push and a really big focus for us in the corporate community as well as across the organization. And again, you can use the Million Women Mentors website to do that. It's very easy to sign up and get an account and make that happen. And last slide, I believe. I mentioned early on, that one of the greatest values in Million Women Mentors is the just incredible resource they provide. And if you, again, go to Million Women Mentors, you'll find action guides for mentoring of students of all different ages, how-tos in terms of how to use the portal, the Million Women Mentors portal, and just a lot of great resources that help get you started as an organization. We've certainly enjoyed and taken advantage of those, and I know many other organizations have. So Million Women Mentors is a great, .org is a great resource for additional guidance as well as entering your pledge and taking part in the movement. So with that, I'm glad to answer any questions, but also turn it back over to Sheila.
And I would like to invite anyone who's on the phone or online to jump in with a question if you have any, or type them over chat. We'd love to be able to hear from you. And we'd love to hear from Sheila and our presenters about what it looks like to engage with Million Women Mentors, how that happens, and how to potentially do that at the state level, where a lot of our networks are leading these statewide organizations and have a lot of connections to organizations that might be interested in the movement.
Definitely. So actually, Rob, can you go back one slide for me, please? So the thing is, as you mentioned, really what's important here is we want everyone connected. I mean, I think Kirsten and Amanda both laid out very, very well what the states are doing, what the corporate are doing, and how the movement works. And, that is why this is very exciting to be able to talk to, quite frankly, leaders in STEM and et cetera, each of the states. Now, as you mentioned, Mike, many of the states in your STEMx network are already connected to work. For example, in Idaho, we certainly have Cindy involved, and in Tennessee, we have Wes involved. But we would love to have any of the other people that are in some of your states, on our steering committee. Each of the states has a steering committee. They meet very sort of quickly, I would say, virtually. But, again, I think as Kirsten said, really part of our goal is to aggregate and get what people are doing. We're not about putting more things on people. We're really about getting what things are people doing. And I'm sure that the STEMx states are doing lots of things around getting more girls into STEM, and we could just be a voice for that. We help to publicize that. We produce a very great newsletter at least once a month that goes out to about 10 to 15,000 all across the country. It would be a great way to amplify the work that's happening. So as I said earlier, if you saw the map and your state was colored, there's a state chair. We are happy to follow up with you, and you can email us at states@millionwomenmentors.org. We can get you that information in terms of helping to connect you to an appropriate state, which we would love to do. And certainly if you're with a company and you have some interest in either being a sponsor or participant, we certainly want you on board for that as well. If we can go to the next screen, and I'm going to kind of go through here quickly so we can leave some time for questions. Each of the state teams kind of comes up with their own plan, as Amanda outlined, beautifully what their plan is. That's not always what every state wants to do, and so this is a great opportunity for a state to put their own sort of mark on it. Again, Kirsten outlined beautifully what Cisco is doing. Again, being able to connect that to Million Women Mentors work nationally and being able to publicize it in that way. But it's really their work that we want to aggregate together, and similar things for our many girl-serving organizations that we partner with. Go to the next screen, please, Rob. And I do want to offer, they're certainly available to do webinars for the people if you would like to see our be able to actually set up a webinar where we could show you the portal itself and show you how it works, whether you're a state, a corporate, or a girl-serving organization, or et cetera, we'd be able to do that. Go to the next screen, and our really last screen. As Amanda mentioned earlier, she mentioned the honorary chairs. We've been very fortunate to work with lieutenant governors and senators, et cetera, across the country. And none other than the Lieutenant Governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, stepped up as our national honorary chair, and she really has helped us with the states as well. We have currently about 22 different governors and lieutenant governors engaged as honorary chairs for states. And this isn't really to publicize it, but it's just another platform to make sure that we are elevating this conversation. It is non-political, but it really is important to have people understand how important this is. And so we encourage each state to have an honorary chair that fits with the mission of their state. So with that, I will stop and thank you again so much for having us. Again, thank you so much to Amanda and to Kirsten for those amazing presentations as well. And of course, to the STEM Connector team, this is a teamwork. There are lots of people that are here working on this daily, and many of them across the United States that are volunteering their time. So this would not be a movement without each person that is involved, and I am just really honored and blessed to be part of it.
So much, I really appreciate the overview, and it's great to not only hear from you, but also hear from Amanda and Kirsten as well. It's just really interesting to hear about how it plays out, from a corporate side, and and how it's folks are engaging with this all over the country, and what a state model actually looks like. I think one question coming in, and Kirsten, I'm wondering if you've ever gotten an employee actually out of this Girls in Tech event, or if some of the mentoring has actually led to folks coming into your organization. And I guess Amanda too, if any of this has led to folks being more interested in what Prime Therapeutics is doing.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think one of the, again, another real benefit to female STEM mentoring in this broader picture is starting to connect the dots and starting to look at the pathway of a student into other programs that we offer. So Cisco offers and partners with many educational institutions around the country and around the world to our Cisco Networking Academy program, which is an opportunity to learn IT and digital skills in general, both in high school as well as in college. And there are now connection points where we can start to have this conversation, and we do with students who come to something like Girls Power Tech and then connect into Networking Academy. And then potentially that leads them into in many cases does lead them into a major at a university that then could lead them into an internship at Cisco, right, and so on and so forth. So I can't quantify that number at the moment, but I do know that those connections are happening, and it certainly is a discussion that we're having in terms of how we make sure those connections are being made and that we're doing everything we can to show them that path and show them that potential.
And so, as you're continuing to grow the network, are there any big plans or events coming up that folks should know about?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So every year, this is our third year, we are having our annual summit in DC, and it will be October 23rd to 24th. And so we really invite anyone to come. I mean, this is a great learning experience, whether you're in Million Mentors or not, because we have people like Kirsten, like other state leaders, like Amanda. We usually have our lieutenant governor and some of our state leadership really talking about very actionable around women and girls in STEM, and then many corporate keynote speakers. So I highly encourage you guys to put that on your calendar, and Michael will send you some information about it. You can send it out to the network as well. We invite anyone to come and be part of this great experience. This is our third annual, and the two have been fabulous, so I know this one will be as well.
I know I've really enjoyed going in the past. And so we're at about 4 minutes left, so I just want to check one last time. I don't see any other questions now in the queue. Is there anyone who wants to jump in just over the phone? So with that, what I'd like to do is thank our participants for being part of the webinar today. We're really so blessed to have you all to talk to us about the movement, and we're looking forward to following up with you, Sheila, directly about how other states can really get involved and really start to get more awareness about the work that they're doing to support women and young girls in their community to engage in STEM. And as we continue to move forward, we're looking forward to talking to you again next month. We'll send out an announcement with the topic and the timing of the webinar in the next few days, and we will have this one posted on the web, and we'll have a link to that one along with the invitation to our next webinar. If anyone has questions again, feel free to follow up directly with me, and I can connect you with any of our presenters today. So thank you very much, and we hope you are also online again next month. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.